was gallivanting with Ntanzi's phone. But the number of calls that were going to and from accused number 2's phone to this girlfriend's number are pretty alarming. Now suddenly, because the phone is taking accused number 3 away from the scene where they wanted to place him, now they're separating the phone from the person. Please make it make sense.
And I'm bad like the Barbie. I'm a doll, but I still wanna party. Pink felt like I'm ready to bend. I'm a 10, so I pull a next 10. Like Jazzy, Stacy, Pinky, all of the Barbies is pretty. Damn, all of the Barbies is bad.
Hello and welcome to my channel. If you are new here, I'm Nogwazi Ndombela, also known as Kwazi Bear on all social media platforms. Do subscribe, be a part of this family, and if you're returning subby, welcome back, darling. Now we're back in court for the proceedings of the 11th of June right through to today, which is the 14th of June. And my goodness, I don't know what is wrong with this trial, but the whole stop, start is really starting to get to me. Before we get into the proceedings for the week, do like this video so that it reaches a greater audience, and also comment with what your thoughts are with regards to this trial. And also, most importantly, please do not skip ads, as this is how I will make money for this channel. So let's get right into the proceedings for the week. As you will recall, last week we ended off the week where Pinky Fillingham from Vodacom was not feeling too good, and because the state didn't have any witnesses lined up for the week last week, we ended up postponing the case till Tuesday, the 11th of June, where Pinky would then continue with her evidence. Indeed, on Tuesday, Pinky was feeling much better, and she was able to continue with her evidence. And the evidence that she laid on the day was basically with regards to accused number 3's phone and the different devices that he had his SIM card inserted into, which in all honesty has no relevance to this case in my opinion. But we listened to all of that evidence on Monday. And another thing that was a confirmation for us on Monday is the George Koch issue. Now, if you recall, accused number 5's version of the 26th of October 2014 was that he was in George Koch hostel with accused number 3, and there was a picture that was also taken on the day. Now, there is a picture on accused number 3's phone reflecting some buildings in the background, and those buildings were said to be George Koch Hostel. Now, according to the records of accused number 3's phone and the evidence that Pinky laid in court on Monday, it confirms that the version that accused number 3 was in George Koch around that afternoon is in fact true, because the towers in which his phone was pinging, Pinky does confirm is within the vicinity of George Koch Hostel. Now, the very interesting thing about this particular point is that Sibande, state prosecutor, then asked the question to Pinky, saying, does this prove that the phone was at George Koch or that the person? And for me, that was a very stupid question, because all this time the phone has been associated with a person. Now suddenly, because the phone is taking accused number 3 away from the scene where they wanted to place him, now they're separating the phone from the person. Please make it make sense. On all the records of accused number 3's telephone for the 26th of October 2014, we realized that there was no other communication with the other 4 accused in this trial. The only communication that he had was with accused number 5, which we were expecting because these people were together on the day of the incident at George Koch Hostel. Monday, we basically wasted the whole day reading records of 2014 December right through to 2015 January, which for me had no relevance, because this is way past the incident of Senzo Meyiwa's killing, and there was no communication before the time that proves basically planning of the murder or anything like that. So those were the proceedings for Monday. On Tuesday, we had a late start. due to the fact that accused number 3 needed to go to a doctor in the early morning, and there were complaints that accused number 3 is having issues at his prison. He is still put in solitary confinement, and the reason that was given to him was that it's because of the Senzo Meyiwa trial. So now Mnisi, the representative for accused number 3, does question why is it that he's put in solitary confinement with regards to this case when he hasn't been found guilty yet. Another issue that accused number 3 did raise was the fact that they don't have access to warm water, and therefore he's unable to take a bath because the prison does tell them that if they do take a bath with cold water, it's at their own risk. If they get sick, then the prison will not be held accountable. So that is a conversation that they needed to have with the prison wardens or the supervisor of the CMAX prison, and a meeting was had, hence the late start on Wednesday. So on Wednesday, it was a continuation of the reading of the records of the cell phone. We then went into the cell phone of accused number 2, which is Bongani Ntanzi. Now, the thing that I'm finding quite interesting is the judge keeps asking clarifying questions for this data, which is really irrelevant. So what is it that he's clarifying? I remember at some point when the defense was asking questions that were irrelevant to the murder, the judge would be the first one to object and say, why is this relevant? Why are you asking this? Because it has nothing to do with the murder. Now that the state is leading evidence and is giving us information about 2015 communications and 2020 communications, the judge seems to be entertaining this. When they went into the records of Bongani Ntanzi, now the one interesting thing that I picked up on this information is that Bongani Ntanzi's cell phone, or one of his cell phone, was basically pinging at towers in Vosloorus Square on the 17th of June. Now, if I take you back, Bongani Ntanzi was arrested on the 16th of June in 2020, and he was then transported from Phokeng in Rustenburg to Pretoria North Police Station, which is where he was held or detained during this period. On the 17th of June, Bongani Ntanzi did not leave the police station, according to the evidence that has been provided so far. We do know that there was a meeting in the boardroom of the Pretoria North Police Station where Ntanzi says Gininda was present, Mohola was present, Mohane, Mabena, and the works were present, and he was interviewed, he was asked questions, he was asked about a gold tooth, he was asked to strip his clothes. So we are aware that there was a meeting that was held in Pretoria North and that he didn't leave the police station. However, his phone seems to be gallivanting the streets of Vosloorus on the 17th, which is surprising to me because considering the fact that Ntanzi never left the police station, it now sort of collaborates the version of Ntanzi, which says, I was searched when I was arrested on the 16th of June. 2 cell phones were taken from me and I never had my cell phone since then. And now the cell phone, which is said to belong to Ntanzi, is now traveling to Vosloorus Square on the 17th. Now, the one thing that I hope the defense will be able to do is check the AVL records of Mohane and see if he wasn't at that location around the same time that the cell phone was pinging at that tower, because that would be interesting. And another interesting thing is that when the phone travels to Vosloorus Square, it then makes its way, you can see the towers pinging, making its way back to Pretoria North. So who was gallivanting with Ntanzi's phone? On the 13th of June, we continued with the evidence of accused number 2's phone, and this was now another interesting point with regards to the communications that were made from Ntanzi's phone. There has been evidence in the court that Ntanzi was in communication with a certain number ending in 1698, which is said to be his girlfriend's phone. Now, this is where the state is trying to prove that indeed Ntanzi had his phone all along in prison and was in communication with his girlfriend. But if you remember the evidence of Mohane, he did once say that Mabena was in communication with Ntanzi's girlfriend to arrange with regards to the clothes and everything. I don't know how long this communication lasted. I don't know how he got her number. I don't know how the communication was made, but I'm just pointing pointing it out that it was said that Mabena was in communication with Lebogang, but the number of calls that were going to and from accused number 2's phone to this girlfriend's number are pretty alarming. And the one thing that really raises my eyebrows in this situation is the fact that this phone was constantly busy. And right now they were reading the records of just the girlfriend, but Sibanda does indicate that there were other calls, numerous other calls that were made from this phone to other numbers. Now, my thing is, having this phone being so busy, didn't it need to charge at some points? So where did Ndanzi charge the phone if indeed he really had the phone with him? Whilst the evidence of the cell phones was being read onto the record, accused number 1 indicated that he is not feeling well. He has a bit of a tummy bug, so court needed to adjourn for him to see a doctor. Now, the interesting thing about this, we've had so many people that have come before the court and have been sick. Ngomezulu himself was sick in court and he was offered drops for his eyes. Pinky, filling him from Vodacom, was sick last week, and the judge has never asked or requested for a sick note for all these people being sick and the time that was taken off. However, when accused number 1 indicated that he's not feeling well, the judge then says he needs to bring proof that he's consulted with the medical doctor and what the doctor basically has to say about him not feeling well. So we adjourned on Thursday because accused number 1 wasn't well, and we were set to continue today, which is Friday, the 14th of June. For the proceedings for today, we yet again continue with the cell phone records of accused number 2 and the communications that he had with his girlfriend, well, the alleged communications that he had with his then girlfriend Lebogang. And as Sibande was continuing with this evidence, the judge then puts an end to our misery because he says, how does this aid in the case? And basically, isn't there a way in which we could fast track all this information and not have to read through every single document? Because Sibanda does indicate that he has about 190 pages still to go with this information. So they take a short adjournment to basically come to an agreement that this information should just be submitted so that we don't have to read every single detail into the record. After the adjournment and the conclusion that Ndanzi's records will be accepted based on a mutual agreement with the defense, Sibande then indicates that he will now be going into accused number 5's details. And as we all know, accused number 5 is said to have numerous numbers that are associated to him, and they were about to leave the evidence with regards to the RICA and all that. And again, with this evidence, they had asked Pinky to sort of break it down into like a shorter, requested that Pinky breaks down the data into like a shortened version so that they are able to quickly wrap up the evidence of accused number 5. So those were the proceedings for the week. We did then adjourn so that Pinky can come back on Tuesday and give us the shortened version of this. Just my opinion about the state's case is that they have failed to prove beyond reasonable doubt that these 5 accused before the court are responsible for Senzo Meyiwa's death. And right now they are just embarking on this journey of trying to discredit the versions of the accused as opposed to proving their case. Because if I just look at the witnesses that have come forward, nothing really places the accused at the scene of crime. The witnesses that were in the house merely did a doc identification when they were in court. However, the same people were unable to, one, give the description to Ms. Steenkamp, who was doing the identikit. They were unable to identify the second intruder. The only information they gave was with regards to the first intruder, alleged intruder. So those witnesses for me don't really prove anything. The testimony of Uzungu, who says he was with these people on the night of the incident at Foslera's Basutu hostel, that evidence is proving to be sort of false because accused number 3 clearly was at George Koch around 5 o'clock, right through until 8 o'clock. based on his cell phone records. Also, Zungu had said that he was part of the photo that was taken, and when it was put to him that the photo was taken in Georgetown, he denied that. And it has been proven now that the phone was in Georgetown, and the people who know the buildings of Georgetown are able to identify them from the picture that was taken. So none of the state's witnesses so far put the accused at the scene. Now I'm going to speak about the confessions, because they did confess. Let me first go into accused number one. Accused number one's confession cannot be used because Mukhola, the investigating officer herself, said that the accused was misleading the police when it comes to certain information in his confession. So there isn't a point where you can take something and not take something else from the same confession. You need to take it holistically. So basically, accused number one's confession is out the window. Now let's look at accused number two's confession, which says that he entered the Khumalo household with accused number three. And right now, cell phone evidence is saying accused number three was not at the scene. Two, he talks about a chair that was used to hit him, and not once was there a mention of a chair that was used to assault the intruders in the house. And even with the pictures that were taken by Mosia, there was no chair inside. So the confessions, to me, cannot be true. I don't believe that those confessions were made voluntarily. I just believe they were written and these people were made to sign them. They don't know what they were signing for, and now the stories are just not coming together. But that's just my opinion. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed the proceedings for the week. I hope you have a great weekend, and I will see you next week with my updates on Friday. Bye.